What are you going to do, Nick? What are you going to do, mate? Like, what's happening here? Okay, so today, guys, we're back with another episode of Punt or No Punt. I am your host, as always, Pete Clarke, and our one-off contestant joining us in the studio today is grinder Nick Eastwood, also known as Easty, I believe.
EC22, mate, but yeah, thank you very much.
Easty22, yeah. I believe that you have some hands for me today, and can you just confirm that I have not seen these hands before? This is the first time I'm going to see these 5 hands that you've played.
You'll never have seen these hands before because you actually don't have them.
That's right.
Because I'm recording this. But
that's right.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought I was the host.
Yes, but you asked me to record for you because you are a boomer.
Sounds good. Sounds about right.
Yeah. Honoured to be here, mate. Thank you so much for having me. It's one of my favourite YouTube poker formats there is. So fantastic job.
Yes, it's a good one. I've been doing it for a long time now.
Yeah, don't know where you pulled it from, mate, but it's genius. Honestly, it's one of my favourites. So I appreciate you having me on. What are the rules, by the way? Just remind me.
So the rules are that you show 5 hands to myself and to the audience where you have either punted or not. I believe they're all going to be like losing hands, which means that it will appear that you've punted to many viewers, but you may not have. Maybe fine. And I'm going to give you a verdict on each hand individually.
Okay.
Whoever wins is whoever scores the most points. So I score a point if I deem a hand a punt, and you score a point if I deem a hand to be a no punt.
I understand. It's quite convenient that we got here today, though, isn't it, Pete? Because we've recently, me and you, had a somewhat of another collaboration other than Punt or No Punt, which is I am officially an affiliate of Carrot Corner. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is what's happened. So I believe you're like our only affiliate. It's not really an area of business I've dabbled in a lot yet, but it's great to have you on board. We've already had some crossover in audiences and stuff like that. And yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Carrot Corner is a training site that focuses on the academic and more serious formal side of poker study. We have a course called the Carrot Poker School, which is about learning poker theory really from all the way through from a fairly elementary level through to like a very high level. And we have other courses and bits and bobs and coaching on there as well. So you can check us out at carrotcorner.com. And yeah, Nick, you are now affiliated with my site.
And that means that if someone put in the code Easty, for example, with 1Y, what would that give them?
It would actually give them 20%. Did we say 20%?
I mean, it's your business, mate. So
pretty sure we said that. 20% off of all Carrot Corner products. 20%. So from the Carrot, that's quite a lot, right?
Wow, that's a load. So guys, if you're interested, link will be down below, and you can use my code Easty to get 20% off. Happy days, right? Sorry, I'm not the host.
yeah, shut up, contestant. Wait your turn. And obviously, you'll be doing Nick a favor as well, guys, because he will. That's how affiliate deals get. Nick will be rewarded in some way for this too. So it's not just me you're supporting, not just Carrot Corner, but also your beloved contestant here, Nick Eastwood, aka Easty22. So let's get into today's hands. Would you like to show me the first spot?
I would love to. Let's go.
So hand number 1, we have 7-6 suited on the button. Let's see how this plays out.
Okay. So it does fold to the cutoff, who goes for an open. By the way, I've tried to use hands that are in the last sort of couple of months so that people that watch the YouTube haven't seen them through top 10 hands yet, because I'm quite far behind in highlights. So hopefully no one's seen these before, unless you've watched the stream, which is, you might have caught them. Anyway, what do you think before I press the next button?
I think you can fold. I think you can call. I think you can 3-bet. You can do a lot of different things here. Everything is like pretty close to zero in equilibrium. If this was a weaker player, I would definitely 3-bet and just try and ISO and play heads up. Otherwise, I'm pretty indifferent here.
Okay. I go for the 3-bet on this occasion, which I'm doing semi-infrequently. And we get a 4-bet.
Snap call.
I literally was hovering the call button, and that's why I pressed it immediately there. Snap call. Yeah, we don't fold this ever once we
no. The hand is just too live. Like if you think about what villain is 4-bet bluffing, one, we're going to unblock like just about every bluff possible. Not many of them contain a 6 or 7 in this position, and we're also going to have a lot of equity against like big brutish offsuit cards, and also we're going to be as live as we possibly can be against the likes of aces. So this is definitely a hand that while it's now significantly losing in absolute big blind value, it's much better from point of decision to peel this than it is to fold.
Yep. Understood. We go for the call, and flop is king, queen, 5 at 2 clubs. Okay.
Yep.
Opponent checks.
Yeah, this is a really weird node.
That's why I brought
equilibrium.
That's why I brought it.
Yeah. I mean, most people are just going to range bet this flop. This is the solver output here is going to be to bet everything, because when you 4-bet, you become the big cards guy, right? You become like the person with the big pairs and big cards, and the button is going to be the sort of the pocket pair monger, the one that's just like drowning in the 8s and the 9s and the 7s and the 6s.
Yeah.
So the way the GTO is meant to go here is that if your opponent does haphazardly check to you, your reaction should be to check back incredibly often and just try to realize equity. The idea is that on a board where they're crushing you so badly, fold equity shouldn't be that forthcoming to you. And I think you can get raised a lot by the out of position player here if you do bet. So what this means exploitatively is another thing. Like, how are people really playing a check range here? To be honest, it weirds me out a little bit. It's like, why would you check this flop? It feels kind of like either it's, I mean, sometimes it'll be like jacks or whatever that just thinks that's the best way to play. Sometimes it will be like ace queen with the same thought process. Sometimes it will be like an absolute trap, like kings or aces or something like that, or king queen. But yeah, I'm quite a fan of check here at a really high frequency with their range, and I think this hand is a bit of a shame to be jammed on. So I'm leaning check here strongly, actually.
Yeah. This will feature in top 10 soon, guys, so you'll be able to hear my live thoughts, but it's in a couple of weeks, I think. We do go for the check for similar reasons as you just said. Just sucks to get check raised. Like, it's awful. So I decided to check. I don't like being uncomfortable, Pete. I don't play poker to be uncomfortable. I play poker to have a flush, okay?
Absolutely.
King of spades. And our opponent bets.
Yeah, I mean, pure call, there's nothing to say. You just call and you move on and you see what happens. The risk reward here of raising and reopening the action is abominable for you. If you raise here and if you jam here, like, you get snapped by a bunch of king X and boats, you make basically no hands at all, indifferent whatsoever. And call is clearly much, much better than fold, with position, implied odds, future fold equity, and all of these lovely things going on. So I think we just peel and we move on. Not much to say.
It is part of No Punt, though. Abominable, you say?
Punt.
No, you're not allowed to do that. No, come on, you're not allowed to do that yet. Come on, that's not how the game works. Come on, coach.
I mean, okay, so let's... Oh, is there another node after this? Right, okay.
I mean,
so maybe the river node is the node where we decide whether it's actually... No,
you take the whole thing as a
whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, you may have already made your mind up. Like, my job is to make you not score me down. Just bear with me, you know.
Usually, I think I'm meant to give a bit more, like, inject a bit more suspense here as the host. Like, you know how Chris Tower or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is like final answer, even when it's like, you know, post boxes are conventionally red, yellow, blue, or green, right? You know, it's a question like that, and the contestant's like red, and he's like, final answer. I think I'm meant to be doing that right now, but I'm really just like, punt.
Yeah, I understand. But usually at this point, you know, the host gives the guests an opportunity to offer their reasoning for their actions.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not doing a very good job of this. I'm learning, though. I think by like hand 3, I'll be nailing.
I'm sure you will.
All right, Nick. So this is a really interesting play you've made here. I mean, I can definitely see some merits to this play. What was your thought process in the game?
Yes, there we go. I'll just edit out the bit that you said punt. So thought process in game was very similar to you on the flop. I don't think that they check a king on the flop very often. I think they see king and they go, oh, this is good. I've 4-bet and I've got a king, you know. So I don't think. I mean, maybe you could argue for some king 10, king jack. I think those hands are under 4-bet as it is. Ace king, I can't imagine ever doing anything else. Then you've got, I mean, maybe aces with a club that would check. I'm not sure what they're building into their checking range here. But what I'm basically saying is, exploitatively, my feel is, and my coach teaches me to play with my intuitions, is that I didn't think this was a king. So I think it's like ace queen, like very ace queeny. And I can have some check back king X. So I decide to do this.
Yeah, I mean, you have given that some justification. I'd say like some things that are maybe missing is we've not really like I'm not advocating fold, right? So you
No,
saying
no,
that you
sure.
don't think villain's range is particularly strong,
Mm.
that doesn't mean that we have to raise and reopen the action to get jammed on. Like there is another line here, which is to call, use position, and then
Yes.
like bluff on the river. Like this is an option too. So we don't have to leap from, I think this is relatively capped and it's mostly stuff like ace queen, to the conclusion that like min raise is the best play. Min raise is nice here. Like it's kind of, if he had exactly ace queen and we knew that, min raise is probably the way to scare the absolute shit out of the villain. Like if I could see
Yeah,
his cards, I would
exactly.
say this is great because they're not going to find a jam very often, even if they're meant to. At the low SBR, wouldn't shock me if they were meant to. And they're probably going to overfold that region to such a terrifying line. So, like, if they did have exactly ace queen here, or they had that most of the time, I would say that's fine. I would say another objection I have here is that your thought process is incredibly assumptive. I think at low SBRs, people will check like aces here. They will slow play. They will go for a check raise with the absolute nuts. They could have like king queen. They could have queens. They could have quads. I just don't think there's that much urgency to pot build at this SBR. And so I'd imagine slow playing is just way more common. It's not like villain has to pot build really quickly here with one of those nutty hands. So I think they're in there. Obviously, like I'd say the range shifts towards stuff like ace queen. Like I agree with the direction of the hand reading here. Like I think that is the direction this range shifts in. But I would say you're being very concrete and like too concrete with a claim like I don't think this is a king. Maybe in game there's like game flow things going on or something, and you do just like pick up on that. But I think the problem with this play in theory is that he's supposed to jam as like the primary means of continuance against this. Like jam is meant to be the main way that villain continues. And at which point you realize no equity, right? You have to fold seven high. All of the equity that you had goes in the bin like every single time that happens, and that's a disaster. So I think the play here is call. And if villain has ace queen, and they block the river or check the river, you can continue to say that you have a king at that point if you really think it's best. Like if you really think that like you can scare the hell out of villain here, I think you can also like jam over a river block or shove when checked to. Maybe it's not quite as efficient at generating fold equity as this line is, but the problem is that this line performs way worse against aces or ace king or other parts of villain's range than call does. And even if you're right that his range moves towards ace queen, etc. I don't think we have enough evidence to say that's such a black and white thing that this is now the best play.
Okay. Last thing I'll say about the turn, and that's all very fair, is that I think that again exploitatively, if I call here and they check like the deuce of hearts, I just don't think I get many folds in that line for 2/3 pot against the ace queen. I think this is just like nobody bluffs this spot. Nobody does this without a good hand. So it's just way more believable. That's what I feel. Anyway.
I agree. I think the price for it is just way too high against the rest of the range, though. I think it's just way too high.
Fair enough. They call. Rivers and 8 of spades. Check.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm still not enthused about this spot. Like I think it's a reasonable line, but then again, some of the folds we get from, I know we keep talking about exactly ace queen here, right? But the thing about the turn is that if villain had jacks and was just randomly playing them that way, I think they go away immediately, like quite often with jacks or tens or something on the turn, right? Similar with like ace jack. So now I'm kind of thinking, well, other than ace jack of clubs, like what I'm really like, if I go all in here, what I'm hoping is that villain just has mostly a queen and that they fold it enough of the time. And while I think this is your fold equity is higher on this node than it would be, I don't know actually. Like against ace queen specifically, your fold equity is higher on this node than it would be on the other one we talked about, right? Where you call the turn and they check the river over to you. So I agree with that. I think the problem here is that you've filtered them away from other stuff in their range, though. Like if they've bet the turn and then you've called and then they check the river, they might have ace 10 or ace jack or tens or nines or something like that. And then you have like loads of folds against that region. Whereas here, they're likely queen X plus here or busted flush draw plus a lot of the time. So I don't think the river jam is a punt here, but I'm not like in love with it either. And I think the turn is the punt. So I'm not going to like call a river jam a punt here at all, but I don't think it's like an amazing spot that yields like tons of fold equity either.
I've got 7 high, Pete.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, okay. So I hear what you're saying, and that's fair enough. I think that I think that yes, you're right. If I call the turn, they have a lot wider range of hands that will fold the river. But I also think that if I just call the turn, then bet 2/3 spot on this river or lots and lots of rivers, I will get looked up a lot easier, and I think this will get a lot more credit. That's the main reason I did it. Anyway, I'm all in.
Yep,
give me a score.
A score out of 10 for the hand?
No. I want a punt or no punt. I mean, I imagine I know what it's basically.
A binary score. Yeah.
Okay, because you can't see the results obviously before it happens.
I have to go with punt.
That's understandable.
The turn. The other thing I want to add is that they may still have way more of the King X plus region than you're giving them credit for.
Yeah, fine.
And then the other part as well, turn and river, they're two different spots, right? So like even if turn is bad, like river can still be okay. You're telling a story as if it's like one line. Here it's two kind of individual nodes, right? So it's worth remembering that too. But no problem with the river, but the verdict is punt based on the turn here.
Very understandable. Thank you for that. I will say this particular day I was feeling it. I was just taking people on all over the place. I was dialed in. Maybe this was a bit too optimistic. Can we get it through, Pete? Damn fucking right we can. It ain't spew if it gets through.
Yeah. That mantra is a punt.
Yeah, okay. Well, hand one, then 1-0 down, I guess, Pete. Should we go and have another look?
Let's do it. All right, so we have another low-suited club connector. Let's see if you can level the scores, Nick.
Yeah, we're getting in the mix again. 6-5 suited. Get 3-bet by the button. Now, this is a player that plays solely to get my money, if that makes any difference.
A lovely screen name.
Yeah, I know. I'm not fucking folding 6-5 suited. I'm not letting you talk me out about this one.
I'm not bothered about here, so it's really close. I mean, a solver might be like 90% full, 10% call, but realistically, if you have a skill edge on the player and you think they're like a punter, then calling is nice. Yep.
I don't think I have a skill edge necessarily. I just think we've got dynamics, that's for sure.
Are you trying to say you're not better than a player with that name? You got to believe in yourself.
No, they're a good player. They're a good player. They are a good player. I think I probably have the better of them overall, but they do get me sometimes as well. We go for a check, and they check back. So the theme, Pete, is that when someone checks, I basically, all right, okay, would you like to play for all the money? Because I believe, generally speaking, that people's checks are under-defended. That's the idea.
Yeah, in most spots, I think that's true. In spots where they didn't have to check.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is one where I'd be surprised if pool was checking enough overpair, because you are meant to like put some overpair in this checking range. So yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing here so far.
Okay. Jack of clubs.
Yeah, it looks like a pure lead because I don't think check call or check raise are that viable. Like if you have the kind of draw like Queen 10 where you can just check jam, then you're allowed to check. And if you have a kind of draw like a nut flush draw, you're obviously allowed to like check call or check jam. So you're allowed to check. This hand has a bit too much going on to check fold. It probably has to bet, but then the jack is quite unfavorable for your range, and check fold is probably not that horrible in a world like this where the jack is just not so good for you. But I think pure bet would be the safe thing here. I don't know for sure, but I would say it's high frequency, if not pure.
What sizing would you like to use?
Well, that really depends what you're going to start betting. On a turn like this, I would be inclined to check again with like my 10s, 8s, 9x, 7s. It's not a favorable world for me, as I've said, range versus range. So probably looking to build a betting range around decent Jack X plus sets for value and then bluffs. So if we're doing that, I would imagine like anything really from like half pot to 75% pot would be totally fine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What about all of it?
Yeah, I mean, overbet here, it's not as necessary as it would be in a single rate spot, right? Yeah. Like the function of the overbet is to bring extra money into play so that you can jam later, usually. So I'm not sure overbet's like totally necessary here. That said, because flop went check, I don't think it's unreasonable to build an overbet range as well as some kind of like B60 range or B50 range. So that would mean like if you're leading King Jack, you don't do this, right? You go smaller. But if you're leading like a set of 3s or a set of 9s or something, then you can do this. So at some frequency, this is probably includable in a decent strategy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do have all sets. So I think this is a trap I was falling into in check lines earlier in the year, where I would just too aggressively overbet in the check lines with like this kind of hand when I'm probably not finding enough like King Jack and stuff. So like, or if I do want to find King Jack, then it doesn't fit in the sizing. Therefore, I'm just like way over bluffing. That's probably where I am here. But alas, here we are, and you've already discussed the merits and demerits of this play, and they do call, and the rivers are 9 of hearts.
Yeah. So I think I know what's coming, but so far I'm not like that bothered by this hand. I think it's totally fine so far. Like, okay, pre's a little thin. Flop is normal, turn is fine. Although I might not use that sizing very often, it's definitely fine. So I'm interested to see what you do in the river and what your thought process was here.
So, I mean, I think, I don't know. I don't mind. It depends. If I'm saying on the turn, I think in my mind I was saying on the turn that I had a set, and I don't know. Like if I had King Jack here, I don't know what I would do. But I think in my mind I was like, I don't have King Jack here. I think I would have just, because I think I'm supposed to bet, like you said, 70. But in my head I was like, this is an overbet board. Oh, look how low high. Oh, I'm going I just get sucked in too easily and I just end up over bluffing. So I think in this spot I was like, okay, I have deuces, I have threes, I have I think even jacks, like I don't really want to shove, like obviously because I have a jack, 2 jacks, which is kind of, we want to get called by a jack that check back the flop if we do have a set. So I'd probably block jacks, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know, mate. To be honest, I've got 6 high. I want them to fold. I guess I'm just saying. Basically, I've got a set. Please have like ace king that was just like hanging on the turn, and please fold it. So
yeah. So a few observations. So one is that the 9 is like a very bad card for you, right? Because like your pocket 9s is now diminished significantly. It's been cut in 2/3, so it's pretty bad. That said, you do still have some combos of like 3s and deuces, and you do have quads sometimes, and like that's the extent of your value range. So I would say that this is a spot where you rep extremely thin. Would you agree? Like you don't rep a lot of value combos at all.
I'm saying I have jack 9 of diamonds or deuces or 3s.
Don't block a jack here because villain is like too condensed for that to be a good idea. After you overbet the turn, if you block, you're just not getting raised very often on the river at all. You're not meant to have a jack yourself. Therefore, villain's not really meant to raise you on the river, even with some quite good hands, probably, right? Because of that extreme polar versus condensed thing. So don't build block here, just build jam. And 6-5 is the jam. Like in GTO, if there's a hand to jam, it's the one that unblocks like ace king, that unblocks spades, that doesn't interfere too much with the folding range, essentially. I don't
Queen
think
10 as well, like
Queen 10 is decent, yeah. Like you do block like,
I mean, no, Queen 10 X. Like he's gonna have more queen if I don't have a queen. Like Queen 10 would be worse because we
totally
unblock Queen 10.
I mean, it would be worse in that sense. It would be better in the sense you block like bluff catches like Queen Jack or 10-9 or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
It would be a mixed bag. But yeah, GTO wise, I can't see this being a mistake. This jam might well be pure because I think 6s and 5s are not part of their folding range, and most of your hands will block folds and this one doesn't. So I think in GTO, this is totally fine. I would be a bit concerned about, I don't know actually if I'm concerned that there's going to be underfolding going on here, because if we think villain checks back flop without enough overpairs, then he probably does just have too many pocket 8s and miss flush draws and ace 5 and stuff like that going on. So I'm gonna go with, are you ready for the verdict?
I'm so ready. Give it to me.
I'm gonna go with no punt.
We're on the board. We're on the board. Love to see it, Pete. Thank you very much. Can we get it through? I mean, if I got through 2 in a row, I think
it's not getting through. He's going to snap you with like ace jack.
So it wasn't a snap. It was a really, really long time bank call, which and I was very upset afterwards because I was like, "You've got the nuts. Please call quicker." He's actually got a jack of diamonds as well, so he just has to call, surely. So yeah, I lost, but unfortunate. But we did. But it doesn't. I don't care. The money's not important. I got on 1-1. So
yeah, there's a lot of exploitative stuff you could say there, and there's some cans of worms you can open. But let's not. Let's go on to the next hand and see how this goes.
Okay, 3 more hands to go. 1-1. Hand number 3.
All right. So we have one of the ugliest starting hands pre-flop. Let's see how we get into a mess this time.
To be clear, guys, I had a few hands I was toying with. I didn't know which ones to choose, and I just let Pete choose one of 2 hands. So this could have gone very differently. Just there's honor in me here. We basically randomized my fate. I've opened the Queen 9 off.
Yep, seems good.
Call.
Ooh, juicy. 3-way. This is what this hand wants, Nick, right? 3-way pots. It thrives under these conditions.
It's exactly what you want in multi-way spots. Jack 10-3. Check.
Bet or check. Don't really care.
Okay. What would you bet?
Don't care with this hand. This hand is like so impartial to absolutely everything that can now happen on this node that it really doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But I guess if you make me choose, I'm thinking if there are fish in this pot, which there appears to be at least one, right? At least small blind is going to be a fish here, then I'd go for like half pot or something. Just get this juicing a little bit more when I've got like nutty straight draw potential. I also think like ace queen is very unlikely in this configuration, it being late position. So this is a decent sizing. Yeah, like if we do get the king turn, I feel like we're semi-nutted here, almost like pseudo-nutted, basically. So yeah.
I usually bet smaller here. I'm surprised that I bet big, but I think it's okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
Call from a small blind, who obviously cold called the small blind. 5 on the turn and a check.
Yeah, so overbet or check would be the main paradigm here in Silverland. I think you've started incorporating that overbet or check framework in these blank turns, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I can't stop overbetting. I never have anything. It's a real problem. But I basically just hit my 2E button. Do you know what that? Do you know what the 2E button is?
Yeah, I've spoken to your coach, to Jared, about this. The E lingo. It's basically saying that you're going to get it in 2 more streets, I believe, right? It's
equally
like geometric.
Equally geometrically over the 2 streets. So yeah,
okay.
It's 2E. It's usually so basically instead of like faffing about with my overbet sizing, I just click the 2E button, which is this sizing.
It's about the right sizing anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It does
flop.
Yeah, it does always end up being about right, which is why I just use it because it's so easy to do.
Yeah, it's nice.
Anyway, overbet check, which you're happy with.
Yep, either one is fine.
Maybe you could have picked the other hand. Just guys, before you shout, you could have picked the other hand. Cool. 7 of spades. Check.
Okay.
Yeah.
So typically, against the recreational side of the pool, we know from mass data analysis. I've got a course called Grady coming out this summer, which is all about frequencies that players call rivers after they call turns in certain nodes, whether spots are underbluffed, overbluffed, underfolded, overfolded.
Got any discount codes for that course?
We do this. Well, it's not, the course doesn't exist yet, but when it does, Easty.
Code Easty.
20% off, just like it does in all the products right now.
Code Every Easty. Product?
Every product.
My God. Okay. Sorry for that segue.
No, it's much appreciated, mate. So this is actually a spot where theoretically, I think you block it. So these spots come down in game theory to like how many folds you block, right? Versus how many continues you block. That's basically the heart and soul of these spots. Yeah. Not having clubs is obviously good, but blocking like the jack nines and things of the world and queen jacks is definitely less good because these are hands that would absolutely go call fold here at a really high clip.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that this is in game theory possibly optional. As in, like, you can do it sometimes, but it won't be making any money. It's like very close to break even. It's not one of
when
your
you say is, what are you referring to? You're assuming my action here.
Just the line of bluffing. I'm saying the line of bluffing would be close to break even, like in GTO terms here. And that's not always the case, right? Because it depends on blockers. Now, back to this mass data thing. When a fish calls a turn overbet, unless the river is like extremely impactful, the data shows the river is quite underfolded.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, right? Because the fish goes through this kind of what I call a fight or flight gate, where you imagine they're sort of choosing between fleeing on the turn and fighting, and the overbet sort of forces them into a bit of a do or die mode a lot of the time. It's not true for everyone, but it's largely quite true.
Yeah.
So I do think that these spots are problematic against fish in general, because when they've continued on the turn, they tend to continue a lot on the river. Now, the fact that this was multi-way on the flop as well, and that you big bet the flop, you've subjected your opponent to a ton of filtering already. So I'd say break even theoretical bluff, but probably losing against the fish population that flats out of the small blind would be my sort of where I'm leaning here.
I mean, it's part of No Punt, so I'll just put the money in for you. Then you can.
Of course, it's coming in. Yeah. It's not the worst play in the world, and like theoretically, it's probably not that bad. I do think we're much better off bluffing hands like Ace 4 and stuff like that don't block the fold so much. I think like Ace 4, Ace Deuce are definitely like the bluffs here in theory rather than this hand. I'm going to go with punt for this one. I think in practice, it's just losing.
That was such a big one to lose, man. Thing is, I agree with you. It's so sick, but no, I'm not going to lose. I'm going to lose, man. It's brutal.
We'll just change the hands, mate. Just pick a different hand now. You can just doctor it. It's your hands.
Let's do that 10-9 I was on about. Yeah. Can we get it through though? Ain't Spear gets through, Pete? No?
I don't think it's getting through.
Oh, no. Sorry. It's not getting through. Absolutely fist pump call.
Let's guess the hand. Threes?
No.
AJ. Jack 10. AJ again. You're getting snapped by this. So,
yeah.
So basically, the fish just goes through too much filtering. So there's just too many stations left, or too many people with temporary stationary mentalities left at that point. I think that's why it has to be down as a punt.
Yeah, I agree with you. Unfortunately, so I'm 2-1 down, Pete. But we've got 2 more hands to go. By the way, I know you do like the 5th hand to be very special, and my word is it special. It's a good one, I promise.
Looking forward to it.
But first, we've got hand number 4. If you're ready, Pete.
Let's go. All right, pocket 9s in the small blind.
Pocket 9s. Folds to the button, who opens the 3 big blinds. This is a reg of sorts. I would say on the tighter side. I think his B-pip starts is like a 19. It's like 19, 17, 8 or something they play, I think, off the top of my head.
That sounds right, since he 3x. That's a very like 1978 thing to do, to 3x the button. Let's 3-bet to 11 or 12 or something. Yeah, okay. Nice.
3-bet to 12 and a 4-bet to 28.
And our read is that this is a reg that kind of is anti-confrontational and just generally taggy. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, they're just what we call it in my Discord a thing. They're a reg. They're not really. There's nothing special either way. Assumptions are dangerous, I would say.
Okay. Well, in GTO you can jam or you can call. I think 8s is not a jam. 8s is a call here.
Jam for 100 million big blinds.
Not for this many big blinds. I missed the stack size. Let's just call. Yeah, let's just call.
Come on, man.
That's a punt by me already.
You're an esteemed coach here, guys. Code Easty for bagging it in for 20% off, bagging it in for 180 big blinds with pocket 9s. Anyway, do you say call?
The sad thing is, I actually miss stuff like that in games sometimes too, where I jam and I'm just instantly horrified. Yeah, of course, call. Like, we're not deviating to the point of fold yet, unless we have a better read than the one you've described. So yeah, call.
6-8-4.
Okay. No idea about like the donk culture on 4-bet pots. It's not something I've studied a lot. I think you can probably begin some kind of like small donk strategy on boards like this that have 3 of the kind of middly danger zone-y cards. We use this term in Character Poker School, danger zone, to denote cards between like the 3 and the 9 here, right? Which are obviously good for your range when you flat a 4-bet, and less good for the big card guy that 4-bet in the first place with the polarized range. So you can probably build like 5th pot donk, quarter pot donk here if you want to on this board, but check there's nothing wrong with check either.
I'm building it.
You're building it. Love to see it.
We're here for it, Pete. You might have known that when I didn't press the check button. We do donk.
I'm surprised by that. I had no idea that was coming. It's a really rare play, and you've done a great job of finding that, because I'm sure that is a thing.
You sure it's a thing? I'll take that. Let's not check if it actually is. I just want this to be over. This ain't over yet, though. Cool.
Yep.
And Queen of Diamonds.
Okay. Well, what is our equity? This is a great place to go. I don't know if you remember that fateful Twitch stream we did like 9 months, 10 months ago.
That Twitch stream, genuinely.
It was all about just stop overcomplicating it and get to your equity. If it's mediocre, you probably need to check. If it's good, you can value bet. If it's bad, you might bluff. So here we have a lot of equity because we have a really mediocre hand. I don't think we have the equity to value bet. If we did value bet, it would be like quarter pot or third pot. And I don't think we have that on this card. This card hits a lot of villains like Broadway floats, ace queen off that floated, hits flushes. They, of course, still have some combos of overpairs, although admittedly they'll raise flop quite a lot. So I think I would just check here, and then you'll be in a world where a villain can either polarize or not. And if they do bet, you'll have like some kind of bluff catchery, like relatively strong bluff catchery hand. I think just check. Yeah, I don't see a reason to go wild here or turn this into a bluff or anything like that. I think it's too good for that.
It's not too good for punt and no punt though. So off we go.
So were you value betting or were you bluffing? Do you remember?
I'm bluffing.
Yeah, I think this is quite far from a bluff, just because.
But I'm not bluffing. Well, I'm sort of betting. It's a merge. It's a merge.
You're hybriding. Yeah. That's what I call a hybrid, where like what you're thinking here is that like if villain folds ace king of clubs, good, you clean up equity. If villain calls with like ace of diamonds,
Yeah.
you get called by a worse hand, and if villain folds black tens or something randomly, then that's great as well.
Merge.
So I think it's slightly too mediocre to actually qualify as that in game theory, but it won't be like far off for this sizing. Listen, you can never go that wrong for like water pot out of position here, but I think it's probably a check. But I doubt this is like horrendous, and it wouldn't shock me if it was betting really small sometimes for mixed reasons. I wouldn't call it a bluff though, because to call it a bluff implies that there's more better hands folding than there actually are, right?
Yeah. I think I was thinking ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
Call 7 of hearts.
Ooh, juicy. So, but I guess fives was kind of a thing that you could have sometimes. Sevens was definitely.
If I've got nines, then I could surely have fives.
Yeah, and would you bet those hands? I think sevens is less of a bet than maybe it's still a bet. You're still able to bet sevens on the turn tiny sometimes. This is a super weird spot. Oh, this is interesting. So obviously now your equity has dropped down to like something pretty low, but not tiny. So you probably have like 20 something percent equity here. Like you're beating like some ace king diamond at bricked and not a whole lot else. And if you check, those hands should probably just rip. And check calling here it's not ridiculous by any means, but it's a bit of a stretch maybe. Ripping yourself, the idea is that like there are hands like tens, jacks that you're hoping to fold out here. Like maybe villain like gets freaked out with an overpair sometimes. Yeah, I don't care about the diamond blocker because I don't think that like the 9 of diamonds is in the 4-bet range really ever in this node. So I'm not like bothered about that. But yeah, I wonder if we can like on such an amazing run out for our range, I wonder if we can actually just start bluffing here and like cause villain to overfold. It's interesting.
I'm expecting overfolds from like I want to say kings with no diamond. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you are deep as well, right? So
yeah,
exactly. So when you're deep,
when
you're deep, you do sort of increase fold equity exponentially in these spots because villain is playing for like a scarier amount of money than normal, and that can have a big effect on how much they contract their range to a bet. Yeah. Okay.
Also, just like what Jalderman teaches me is that if I get to this rule, like what does their range look like? How comfortable is it for their entire range to be facing a shove here? And I think they're very, very uncomfortable. No matter what they have, they're going to have to hit certain frequencies that I don't think they're going to be able to hit when I shove here. With kings and aces, with a diamond, without a diamond, I wouldn't know what the fuck to do here. But I don't have to worry about it. I just have to stick it in. They have to worry about it. I don't think they have, enough ace 5, given that it's a thing. Like I said, it's just a reg, whatever reg. They're going to maybe have ace 5, but like whatever, if they have ace 5, just call it off. And that's not when I get called by ace 5, I'm not like, oh shit, I'm the worst. I'm like, oh, okay, they had ace 5 this time.
And I don't think they call turn with ace 5 anyway. I don't think you can worry about it unless it's a flush.
Unless it's a flush, which I just snap off anyway. So like they don't really have that many great hands. They have a lot of so he says to me, what kind of hands get to the river and how comfortable are they facing certain actions? And I think that their general range here is very uncomfortable facing all in. So
I agree. I think it's an overfolded spot. I think the spots that are really overfolded are the ones where the board really, not just the board, but some factors give villain cause to sort of be afraid or just be worried, like more so than they would be normally. So like the combination of being deep, 3 flush and 4 straight, and like the 6, 8, 4, and 7, like smashing your pre-flop flattening range against the 4-bet. All of these things together, they really do project the idea of like an overfolded spot. So I'm ready to give you a verdict.
Oh, please give it to me.
It's going to make the last round very interesting. And I'm afraid, Nick, that it's going to come down to sudden death because this is not a punt.
I actually properly convinced you of this one. I think you were leaning on maybe at some point there you were teetering, Pete. You were teetering.
I had to think about the spot a lot. So I was actually really unsure when this river came down about what theory would suggest here. And I still don't actually know whether this play would be
I don't give a fuck
allowed. But I agree with you that like in practice, we just yield a very high amount of fold equity here, especially against the prescribed player type. Like what you said about villain preflop, this is definitely not a punt against this player. Definitely not.
Can we get it through, Pete?
Yes, for sure.
Getting it through as well. Guys, I'm sorry to bring winning hands on, but just because you win a hand doesn't mean it's not a punt,
That's true. The first hand was definitely a punt and you won the first hand.
Yeah. And
it's independent.
Exactly. And also, like, if you just think, oh, I won that hand, so it's it's probably fine. If you don't look back at the hands that you won, you're going to be making assumptions about the fact that it worked, and then you may be doing things later on which harm you. So always review all the winning ones as well, like this.
Yeah,
which is why I brought them on.
Though.
And I also like to keep Pete guessing and you guessing if it's going to be obviously people like to bring on just ones they lose, and that's fine as well. I like to keep Pete guessing. We've gotten it through, and my God, did we need that to go to 2-2? But I wonder it might be in vain as we go on to hand number 5.
I can't wait.
Which is a banger. Let's go.
All right, 50NL hand. We have ace 8 in the hijack. Let's open it up.
Opening it up. And Bubbles calls. Bubbles,
Bubbles,
I think, is just another reg of sorts. Yeah. Bubbles is just like a whatever reg again. There's lots of whatever regs. Yuri Boyka, I can imagine that we can assume is not the world's greatest.
I mean, this is the Clanty strategy. What are you talking about? This is a pro elite play.
It's either a complete whale or it's Clanty.
Yep.
I think it might not be Clanty because it's 50-0 on ace 8. So I'm not folding this hand to this action. You don't care about this, do you? No, you're fine. To the flop we go. Flopping top pair. Yuri goes to the bet.
Gross. Call and not like life. Yeah. I mean, you have more than 25% pot share here in EV, and you have to call, but you don't have more than like 34% or something. So don't be optimistic. Call though. Yeah.
Another call behind from Mr.
Jesus. This is bad, man. This is bad.
This is King of Spades. Check.
Okay, check. Yeah, thank God.
Check.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 of Hearts.
What are you going to do, Nick? What are you going to do, mate? Like, what's happening here? Okay, so you're going to... Surely this is just way too thin for like any sizing now, right? Like people can still have ace-x. This is a check. Like I can't see even like 3 BBs here is dicey. Like 3 BBs is probably okay.
Yeah.
But it's either like 3 big blinds or 2 big blinds or check, right? It's like one of those.
Oh my God. Okay. A check.
Okay.
All in.
All right. All right. Okay.
Fold.
Before I do anything here, before I continue, have you told me everything you knew at the time about Bubbles, or am I going to start like, going into some kind of theoretical ramble, and then you're going to go, "Oh no, mate, his range is literally any 2 cards." So I'm going to be like, "Oh well, then."
No, the range is not any 2 cards. No, it is just a reg.
Okay, so nothing specific that I need to know.
It's just a player that plays that is moderately good and plays. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything really that would influence you to defer from an MDA or theory or whatever you want to do.
Oh my God! What a spot!
Yeah.
Oh God, this is horrific.
Shall I sort of talk about it?
Yeah, I think you should talk about it because I need some time to process what on earth is going on here. You talk about it first. Okay. Go for it.
I mean, I would much prefer to deuce. Obviously 6-5 gets there. I'd have much preferred a deuce. My thoughts were that they don't have a set ever. I think that's fair. Because they check back the turn and there's a whale in the mix, so they never have a set. I think that their flop call is they're going to have 6-5 suited and they're going to have flush draws. I think this is what we're looking at, pretty much. They're also going to have 4-5 suited and 7-6 suited. I think those are 7-6 diamonds, maybe not. It's kind of close, but you could definitely stretch to it. I think that 5-4 is definitely in there, though. Obviously, 5-4 of clubs. When they shove, they don't have a set. They don't have a set anyway. But when they shove, they're basically saying they have 6-5. I think I would like to have a 6 or a 5 in that case. But also at the same time, do I want to have a 5? Because I think 5-4 could maybe stretch to a bluff. Because my best hand's probably, I don't really have pocket fours. The thing is, generally I'm thinking they have a very, very specific range of value hands, which is exclusively 6-5 in my opinion. I don't think you can argue with that. And if they had obviously those hands on the flop, they've also got the flush draws, which can never fold the flop and probably will always try and realize equity on the turn. So they always end up at this river with flush draws, such as like 10-9 of clubs,
Mm.
You know, Jack 10 of clubs, Queen Jack of clubs, maybe Jack 9 of clubs, 8 9 of clubs, 4 5 of clubs, all these hands. If they shove those and the 6 5s, they're over bluffing, I think. And it's going to be close for me to be getting the right equity to call. Are they bluffing them? Or do they, like, if I was in their shoes, like, again, this is what I've been taught. It's probably, maybe, you know, it could be costing me money in some spots. Who knows? It might not. But is it comfortable to check back 10 9 of clubs here? And how, if I was in their shoes and I had 10 9 of clubs, would I not just be like, well, no one can fucking call here, so I'm all in? Like, that's what I'm thinking. And then, like, having a 6, I guess, would, if I had a6, I'd be like, fuck it, call. But I think this, I took a long time, and then, I do decide to call. So over to you.
Yeah, so I think this is a spot where you've quite rightly identified that the value range is tiny, because Ace King is not reaching this node. Ace 4 could reach this node, but like checking back turn with that, with the whale in the pot, seems really bizarre.
Also, can't
the set is similar as well. It probably can't shove the river either. No, probably won't shove the river.
Yeah.
Maybe it can actually against your true range, but it probably won't.
Yeah.
Something like 4s or 7s. I don't want to say they never have it. I would say that it's highly discounted, but like, here's the thing. When somebody's range narrows to being like a lot less combos than it was before, if there was like 0.8 of a combo of sets in the range, like on average here in pool, when they check back turn, that 0.8 of a combo is now more. Now, it's still not that significant, right? But it is more than it would have been when the range was still wider. So that's really the way we should think about range narrowing, right? Combos are relative to the rest of the range. And as the range gets smaller, they can become relatively larger, even if they're not many absolute combos. 6-5 is definitely the hand that villain is claiming to have, like at a really high frequency here. When they have a value bet, it's almost all 6-5 with a little bit of set, maybe.
Just to interject, like, I thought as well that if we both check twice, it's going to be so, in their shoes, they're going to be like, it's so hard for me to get called. Like, am I really going to shove? Like, 2 people have checked twice on the turn in the river. Am I really going to shove 6-5 thinking I'm going to get a call? That also entered my mind. Like, maybe they bet like an overbet sizing or like a 2/3 sizing, but with the flush draw, like 10 9 of clubs or 8 9 of clubs, I can see them being like, well, no one can call, so I'm all in. So I figured that they might not shove 6-5. And maybe not. Like, that also entered my mind, just to have all of the information before you.
And I think if you're going to do that, you also need to be fair and impartial and say, well, there's also some players that just don't have the stomach to jam 3 and a bit X pot with air here ever, and will only ever have 6-5. So when we talk about this spot being, you know, balanced, overbluffed, or underbluffed, actually, we know that every single human in this spot, individually speaking, is going to be really unbalanced. They're either going to be never bluffing, or they're going to be like only bluffing or grossly over bluffing. There's actually not many, you know, actual human beings who have anything near the right bluff to value ratio. So we can already say they're either under bluffing or over bluffing. And then, like, which of those is more likely, and how do we weigh those up? Well, I would agree with you that when a landing range, that's the range someone reaches a node with, contains tons of combos of air relative to the value hands that it contains, then you are usually looking at overbluff notes. If you then want to say this player is also a good reg for the stake, then he's probably taking plays that work quite well against pool. This play, if this is the 10-9 of clubs, this probably works immensely well against pool. Like, he probably gets this through like in the high 80s or 90s or something, which is just as well, because when you go 3x pot, obviously it's going to have to work like 75% of the time to break even, but it's probably working like close to 90. I think having listened to everything you've said and having digested this, I agree that like the biggest factor here is that the value region is just really tiny. It's just almost like getting to the point where the line quote unquote doesn't make sense. It's almost getting to that point. Because who knows if he even flat 6-5 pre anyway. Like, some people just fold that without thinking, right? Or they roll or something like that. I'm ready to give you the
what
verdict
are you saying,
on this
Pete?
one. Well, I hate this because I actually lost. I think I lost the last time we did this together when it was my hands. I think you won 3-2. And while there's a part of me that wants to win this time, I have to be honest and objective here. I think there are way more regs that fit Bubble's description that are over bluffing than never bluffing here, given what you've said. I'm actually going to go with no punt for this one.
Oh my God. I cannot believe I've got this through. What a result. I can't believe this. Guys, it's not rigged, okay? I didn't have any influence. Pete's never seen these hands before. My God, I can't believe I got that through. I think that is... I honestly, at the time, I spent a long time thinking about it, and I thought, you know, what would I do? Definitely shove with 10-9 of clubs. Like, how can anybody call? And I would have probably not shoved the river with 6-5. I think in the end, I decided afterwards that I'd like to have a6 of diamonds, just to have a little bit, just to cut down on a little bit the 6-5. Just one combo, which could mean, it doesn't mean great deal. Let's be honest. The overarching factor is whether or not a reg here, you know, like you said, is overbluffing. And I think that you could argue they are. I know I am, but you know, I'm a fucking.
It's really player type dependent, right? Like some regs are never ever bluffing. So if this was an unknown or a fish or a tight looking player, like I'm just never calling here, right? Because I think most people just don't have the stomach for this play. Yeah. But when you describe the player as one of the stronger regs in the pool,
I don't think I said that. I just said they were a reg.
I thought you said something about that they were decent or something like that. Okay, yeah.
I mean, they're not astounding by any means. I'm not. Yeah.
Right. So you need to be a bit careful then, because like at higher stakes and stuff, like I think you'll find regs that just take this play really exploitatively. I think at 50 there'll be less of those people. You know what? I've said no punt. I'm taking it. No punt.
I'm running to it.
I'm not convinced the 5-6 is there often enough. I'm not convinced that the thing is when they start bluffing here, the floodgates open, and the guys who are bluffing here are so grossly over bluffing that it's not that you win 50% of the time or that like having the 6 is relevant.
Yeah.
It's more just that like you win 80 or 100% against those guys, right? And then against the guys that never bluff, you lose always, and it just depends who you run into. I think no punt's fair.
Wonderful. No punt. And they had the nuts, so yeah, well played. Never mind. No punt is all I care about. I managed to get this one through. This is the crowning achievement of my punt or no punt career, getting this one through, Pete Clarke.
Well, this hand is the thing we expected to see for value, right? And we know there will be people that have this in the pool, but we also suspect that it's so easy to overbluff here.
I thought they might not go all in with 6-5. Because it just looked like it weren't getting paid. But then I think it's just like...
Yeah, I think you're projecting a bit too much.
I am projecting.
When you say that. And you're also being quite biased because like you could also say, well, why would they need to go all in here as a bluff? Wouldn't they just be able to like slight over bet? Like I could do that. I could play that game as well from the other side of things. So I think we should be a bit careful. But yeah, 6-5 is the value combo. It looks like hardly any combinations. It looks like it's easy to overbluff. But I will stress this, if this is someone who's just like an ABC 50 NL like weak reg or something, I'm never making this call. I did think you'd said something that they were like quite competent or something before, so that's why I'm okay with it. But yeah,
I mean, maybe I squeeze this through. Honestly, if I pop their HUD up and they're a stain, then you probably reverse your decision. So I'm not going to do it.
I would. If you pop the HUD up and they're like 19-16 over 1,000 hands or something, I'm going to reverse the decision.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm not doing it then. I don't know what it says, but
okay.
Right. I'm taking the win. Shamefully taking the win. And thanks, Pete. Should we do a quick outro?
Yeah.
To sum everything up.
This hand is like, I'm going to walk away from this session just with this hand like replaying like a horrible, daunting loop in my head. I'm just like going to try and get my head around it. Because it is such a sick spot. It's just one of these ones that's either like so overdone or underdone. But this has been really good choice of hands, man. It was really
Thank you. You like them? Oh, good. I was worried.
I like your heart these days. I was talking about this on my podcast the other day. Remember people used to say back in the day, man, like poker players, they need a lot of heart. You've definitely got that, Nick. No shortage of heart, right?
I'm not afraid. I've definitely Jaldum inspired some creativity, shall we say, in my play, especially on the river.
So in customary fashion, let's move a giant pile of Eastie's money over to Bubbles, the victor here, who, by the way, is 24-19, 11% 3-bet, 63% C-bet. Looks fairly good. Fold to C-bet 42, decent sample. You know, these are not the stats of what you would call a stain, Nick, right?
Yeah, they're definitely not stain. This is one of the more like these are stats you think, oh, okay, they kind of know what they're doing. Which is like if it was, I can't imagine ever making this call if like I hadn't looked at the HUD, but before I showed you this hand again, I was concerned that it was going to be a stain, but I can't imagine I would have made this call if it was. So it's definitely, it looks like, you know, I got a fair result. Would you say, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, it's an immensely player-dependent spot, and given what we know about the villain, I would stick with no punt, given this HUD.
Awesome. So the win is confirmed, just because I knew that people were going to, if I ducked out the HUD, people were going to say, you've cheated. So I wanted a clean win. Whether it was a clean loss or a clean win, we've won. Anyway, Pete.
Yeah, so how do you feel this went then? There were a few hands that were like total punts. 3 of them, we went with no punt.
Very pleasing.
Are you pleasantly surprised by this result?
Overwhelmingly happy with the result. I mean, I would say the hand I'm most proud of is hand number 1, and I got punted for that. I love hand number 1. That's my favorite hand. Probably my favorite hand of the year. You should have seen my reaction to getting that one through. I was so excited. That's coming up in top 10 very soon, but maybe like the same week as this. But yeah, I liked it, man. I feel bad for winning because rarely anyone wins. But yeah, I mean, thanks a lot for having me on the show. Big fan of the series, as I said already. One of my favorites. And I think you do a great job on the channel.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I'll keep running it. I do run this series every month, something like that. So stay tuned. We'll have other guests on there as well in the near future. And
we do actually have more guests.
You do have more guests lined up. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear. And yeah, for anyone else that has enjoyed this and you want to see more of my content, I have a YouTube channel as well. It's called Carrot Corner Poker Education, and it's basically just the free content arm of Carrot Corner, where you can get a little bit of a preview about how we teach the game over there and learn something and hopefully be entertained along the way. So Nick, as always, it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to make some more content with you again soon, mate.
Yep, absolute pleasure to be associated with Carrot Corner, man. It's very exciting for me, and I hope that everyone gets some good discounts out of it. Times are tough, as we know, in the economy. So if you want 20% off Carrot Corner, anything on Carrot Corner, then you should use my code EASTY, a link to Carrot Corner in the description below. Pete, thanks a lot. In all sincerity, thanks for coming on. Thanks for playing the part of host for today. We will be back with more Pun and No Punt in the near future. We've got some very interesting guests lined up. One extremely exciting one, which is on the horizon. Not going to be yet, but I'm just teasing you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, please, guys. It makes a huge difference, and do like the video to push it out to more people. Other than that, I will see you guys on the next one. Pete, pleasure as always. All the best.